Lindsey Graham is the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee.
Yeah.
He is also on Judiciary, Appropriations.
Yes.
And he is Donald Trump's foreign policy whisperer, I think it's fair to say.
But no whispering. No!
He is in his fourth Senate term, elected in
Yes.
2002, and running for a fifth.
Yes.
Next November, PAC contributions accepted, I'm sure.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So let's get right into it. Let's start with I think what people want to hear is you got a year left with Republican control of the House, Senate, and the White
Right.
House. What are you going to do with it? What do you want to do with it?
I don't know.
Is
We got to
it that
figure that
bad?
out, don't you think? So, what would I do if I were king? One, I'd be benevolent but randomly cruel, just to keep people in line. So, we got a chance. What does it mean if you got all three? It means you can do a thing called what? Reconciliation. So, reconciliation is a budget vehicle from the 1974 Budget Act that allows a simple majority to reconcile the budget. You can cut money here and you can add money there, and that's how they passed Obamacare. That's how they passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which didn't work. So our goal is to pass stuff that does work through reconciliation. The big, beautiful bill came through reconciliation. Now, the way I look at the law, we can do two more of these things. Now, how do you get to be budget chairman? Do you know? You outlive everybody to your right. I went to one budget committee in 10 years. So they called me up, like last year and said, "You're budget chairman." I said, "How can that be?" You outlived everybody to your right. Two guys ahead of you went to other committees. So I've learned a lot. I came in with no biases, by the way. So I've learned a lot quickly. How did we get 50 Republicans to deliver the largest tax cut in the history of the country, to reduce Medicaid spending by $850 billion over a decade, $150 billion of money into the Defense Department, and a bunch of energy stuff? How did we do that? We told our Republican colleagues, this is a gift from the political gods, failure's not an option. No Democrat was going to give us $400 billion or wherever it was for the border. We got enough money in reconciliation to secure the border forever without one Democratic vote. No way the Democrats were going to make the 2017 tax cuts permanent. And we talked to our colleagues about failure here, we crash and burn. So you get fear and reward in politics. I want to do another budget reconciliation bill and build on what we did. Permitting reform. We'll talk about that next.
Yeah, but can you get permitting reform in reconciliation? I don't think you can. I think you need Democratic votes for
It's hard. Reconciliation has limits on it. You've got to fit it in a window. You got to remember, they did Obamacare through reconciliation.
But it has to have budget ramifications.
It's got to have significant, it's got to be more budgetary than policy.
Yeah.
Like H2A, H2B. We're not going to be able to change that in reconciliation. They tried to do DACA, Pathway to Citizenship. It got knocked out by the parliamentarian. Permitting reform. How many of you would like to see permitting reform in the energy sector and probably anywhere else? You might actually get that bipartisan. The last guy before me, the AI dude, how many of you remember the Jetsons? That ages you. Rosie the robot. So here's my view about this AI stuff. I had a flip phone till last year. I'm the last guy you want to talk to about the AI stuff. The first decision we got to make, Paul, is what role does Congress play in developing this technology? Do you really want me and a few other of my colleagues sitting in a room with the AI guys saying, do this, don't do that? I don't. China will blow right by us. So what we're trying to do in a bipartisan way is to make sure that we have accountability, but we don't lose the race. The one thing I can tell you about AI development, it's coming whether you like it or not. We're in a competition with China. I'd like to win rather than lose. And I think the key to all this is as the technology develops, we need to create laws that when you apply that technology, you're responsible for it. That's a moderating influence. Does that make sense? Rosie the robot, the maid, if she burns down the entire apartment complex, you're on the hook. If you got a driverless car and you run somebody on, you're on the hook as the AI company. I think that's a big decision we're going to make in 26, because if we don't start making it now, we're going to get left behind.
So you actually expect Congress to pass something on AI this next year?
If we don't, it's moving really quickly. Do you agree with that? I mean, like really quickly. So I think we need to get our stuff. Schumer was interested in this. He had a very heavy-handed approach. I've talked to the president. He wants to do a summit on it. We've got to have some guardrails on how you develop technology, but if you lock it down and have too much government, you get left behind. That's a bipartisan exercise. We probably can't do that in reconciliation. Now, what can we do in round 2 of reconciliation?
Let me go into this AI thing one more, because there's a debate, a big debate between those who want to pass a law that preempts state regulation.
Right.
And that's where Ted Cruz is. That's where the president is. And then there are governors like DeSantis and Kathy Hochul of New York who say, no, we want to be able to pass regulation. Where are you on that?
I think you're going to have national standards or you'll drive everybody crazy. College football, which is more important than anything I will talk about tonight, because I'm in cycle. Nobody cares about this other stuff. What are you going to do to make sure that you don't, like every year change quarterbacks? If Florida does this and California does that, New York does this, it's kind of that stuff. I think you're going to have national standards for something this impactful on the economy.
Do you think you got enough Republican consensus to get that?
There is no consensus on anything. So that's what I like most about my job. It just sort of happens. But the president's, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But there's a consensus we need to do something, right? There's a consensus that social media sites are ruining the country because they're unregulated and you can't sue them. Have you ever heard of Section 230? Okay, Section 230 prevents you or your family from suing a social media site that has a website that has sexual predators going after your kids or bullying your daughter. There's nothing you can do about these people. We need to put a lid on that, and there's growing consensus in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and it's my bill to sunset Section 230. 2 years from now, it's going to go away. Nobody here is in tech, so that's what I've learned about the crowd. No, the Sam's Club guy, you're fine with that. But there are a lot of people who ain't fine with that. So Section 230's time has come. When Al Gore invented the internet, he needed some help getting it up and running, right? We're good. The internet is strong. Advertising dollars, the most in the history of mankind, go to social media companies. You get enough eyeballs, you can monetize it, right? You can't sue these people if they have a bad product or a dangerous product. And there's no really regulations anywhere in the country to control this phenomenon. So getting it up and running has been successful. Dealing with the dark side, we're failing. So I want to put it on a clock. 2 years from now, it's going to go away. It gives you 2 years to find some kind of substitute, regulatory commission, some tort, some this, some that. But I would argue that this is a dangerous product. This iPhone is a dangerous product for children.
I think you just made news with that, perhaps.
Oh, this is being broadcast?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Well, everybody heard.
Nobody will be surprised I'm there.
So, all right. Well, what can you do? What can you do through reconciliation? Do you have any tax provisions?
You can do reconcile entitlement spending. Okay.
You're going to do something more on entitlement? You just get blasted for trying to do something on Medicaid.
Okay. Under reconciliation, you cannot touch Social Security. Why? Because Robert Byrd made it off limits when he did the 1974 Budget Control Act. You can't do that. You can do Medicare, you can do Medicaid and some other stuff. Nobody wants to do Medicare because we're scared to death. It will kill us all. Medicaid has grown by 50% in the last 5 years. what did we do to save $850 billion over a decade, which is about 6% of what we're going to spend. We said if you're an illegal immigrant, you can't apply. We did a bunch of things that are just really common sense to restrict eligibility. Obama took Medicaid and just blew a hole in the eligibility requirements. Medicaid was designed for people who are disabled or poor to help them with their health care needs. Obama, through Obamacare, just blew a hole in that, and we're signing up people that make well over 400% poverty. So we we restricted it back to its original purpose, and that saved us $850 billion, and we almost failed. So in round two, can we do a little more? I hope. In round two, can we do a little more on taxes? I hope. But we took it to the nth degree. We had J.D. Vance break the tie. So I'd like to get some money for the military. God knows we need it. I'd like to make sure that on the tax side, that you give me some ideas that might fit into reconciliation, and we build on what we did before. Expensing, that's a good thing, right? So let's kind of build on that stuff. So you got the tax side, you got money-saving opportunities, going back into the government, see if you can shave a few dollars off by reforming these programs. Tariffs, your favorite subject. Trump, if you're out there, you're generally right about tariffs, but not always. So what Trump has convinced me of is that he's put a value on access to the American economy. I believe that most countries will pay 10 or 15% without hitting us back to participate in our economy. The European deal, which is close to being done, has 15% with a bunch of loopholes in it. But bottom line is, maybe we can do something on a minimum tariff. Maybe we can do something about how to take the money that we've generated from tariffs and allocate it through reconciliation.
So Scott Bessent has been saying, the Treasury Secretary, that if the Supreme Court overturns the president's emergency tariff,
which I think they will.
Which I agree with you, I think they will, then the president wants Congress to codify them. Do you think they can do that?
No.
They don't have the votes for that.
So IEPA, do you know what IEPA is?
It's emergency power tariff.
If you do, that says more about you than if you don't. So
some of us have to do this for a living.
Yeah, well, I know.
Come on.
It's me and you, and these are normal people. So IEPA allows emergency powers to the president to deal with economic distress, but it never mentions the word tariff. Now, tariff power is given to the Congress in the Constitution. We can delegate it. We've done it in Section 232 and other things, where we give the president some power in the tariff area. Now, President Trump has taken and run with this thing. He has tried to exercise unlimited general tariff power. And it helped us with drugs coming out of Mexico. The Europeans are paying attention. Trump is tariffing people for bad behavior toward us, and is using it as a weapon to get a better trade deal. The question is, will it withstand scrutiny? He's looking to the IEPA statute, saying Congress delegated the power to tariff through that statute. I don't know if they're going to agree with it. I think he'll fall short there. Now, what can we do? I can't get 60 votes to give Trump tariff authority for the entire world. But there's certain powers that we do have that we can build on. Bessent has another idea about licenses, that you can have a licensing power that would give you almost the same leverage as tariffs. So they're thinking about a plan B. But here's what I've learned, Paul, about tariffs. People who are doing bad things to America, countries, are really worried about getting tariffed by Trump. Pakistan and India, you know why they didn't go to the next level? Trump said, I'm going to put across-the-board tariffs on both of your countries if you don't knock this shit off. It has a power that most of us don't appreciate. The power of the American economy and the desire to be part of the American economy is larger than all of us thought. And we got to harness that power legally and practically and push the world in a better direction. I'm by no means an isolationist. I will confront evil and I will be aggressive. But on the economic side, when you're being cheated and robbed and pillaged, you need to push back, just as you need to push back when Russia invades Ukraine.
Can you pass and would you support the president's idea for $2,000 tariff rebates?
Yeah, I think so, simply because I want to make sure that people understand there's a benefit to them for good policy. What we have
It's going to cost $600 billion.
Yeah, but you're not going to fix the debt unless you do entitlement reform. Do y'all agree with that? Like 75% of the budget is on autopilot spending. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security is like 70-something% of the budget. You got interest on the debt, and what's left is discretionary spending. What did Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill do? They decided to extend the age of retirement from 65 to 67 and a half. Why? Because in 1983, the whole thing was going to blow up. They did it together after they had a drink, right? Problem is Trump doesn't drink. Maybe it's good that he doesn't drink. I don't know if that's actually a problem. But so the point is, entitlement reform is right because we hit a wall with Social Security and Medicare in 2032, 2035. Now, why is that? We're living longer than ever, and we have fewer people paying in.
But Senator, you know that there's no support in the White House for doing entitlement reform. Certainly not this year.
Not in 26.
Yeah,
but
next year, not
if we can keep, whether we keep the House or not, go out big is what I'm telling them. How many people like to see immigration reform? Let me tell you why you say yes. How many people would like to have access to more workers throughout the world, make it a win-win? Now, what Biden did set us back a long way on immigration reform. He obliterated the border. We got millions of people here illegally, and nobody really wants to talk about legalizing anybody, and I get that. But I've been involved in immigration for a long time with you. So here's the trade-offs. If you want merit-based immigration, how many of you want that? H-1B, the cap goes in like 60 days, it's gone. We need more workers. But you got to promise the American people an American will get the job first. But if you can't find an American, we're going to go outside the country and make it a win-win for the country through rational immigration. India produces more science, computer people than we do in 1 year than we have. So how do you have rational immigration? How do you have people to help you farm when you don't have enough people here? We got two things going on. We have a declining population. In 1935, there were 15 or 16 workers for every Social Security recipient. Now there's 2.5. I don't know where the half guy went, but it's going down. We just live longer and have fewer kids, and that's going to bite us in the ass. Then you got AI coming, right? That's going to wipe everybody. I don't know what it is, but I do know this, that if you want access to labor in a rational way, we need to supplement a declining workforce. And we need to make it a win-win for America, not a threat to the American worker. There's one guy I think can maybe do that above all others, Donald Trump, because he's been a hard ass on immigration. You got to prove to the right that we're not going to take American jobs off the table to get cheap foreign labor. You got to prove to the country that after an American worker can't be found, the business is either going to move or you're going to supplement the workforce so you stay in this country. That's a big friggin' deal. I'm hoping that can come before Trump leaves. Energy. How many of you believe climate change is real? Okay. How many of you believe that if you don't do something about China and India, it doesn't matter what we do? You need to raise your hand. Good. So the bottom line is rational energy policy. To Democrats, climate change is a religion. To me, it's a problem. And the country that can solve this problem, having an arc of time, lower carbon economy emerge without destroying your economy is going to do exceedingly well. So there are some Democrats, believe it or not, who believe climate change is real, but are willing to build more nuclear power plants. Because if you want more power, that's not admitting you need to build more stuff it doesn't admit. AI, all these data centers, the demand for power is going to go through the roof. That creates problems for water. So you got a growing need for power. You've got a environmental problem. How do you do win-win? I think you can, I really do. I think we can generate more power from the nuclear industry. We need to make gas as a base fuel because it's cleaner than other stuff. Wind and solar is part of it. Bottom line here is if we can figure this out to meet our power demands in an environmentally sound way, we're going to do really well in the next century. The French went all in on nuclear and they never abandoned it. They have an advantage in the European power economy because they went with nuclear power. Most other European nations decommissioned their reactors. So what we got to do is have a rational energy policy, understand the environmental component won't go away.
You're not going to get 60 Senate votes for any of this this year.
But well, if you don't have goals, then what good are you?
Fair enough, but I mean, what can you realistically?
We can do reconciliation. We can do more tax cuts. We can do more spending. We can do more for the military. We can maybe do something on tariffs. Maybe we can do some small regulatory relief without one Democratic vote. What can you do with Democrats in 26? Permitting reform is beginning to resonate with Democrats because we all don't want to just freeze to death. If you don't have more pipelines, you just can't get the energy you need to the economy, to all sectors of it. There's growing consensus that social media is ruining the country. There's strong bipartisan support for reining in social media companies. I don't know exactly what the bipartisan bucket will be in 26. There's 85 co-sponsors to give President Trump power to tariff any country that buys Russian oil that doesn't help Ukraine. 85 of us in the Senate.
And you still can't get a vote. Why not?
We're trying to drive a conclusion to peace. But this bill has been hanging out there in a very effective way. The deal on the table, I don't know the details, but if this thing collapses, then we need to go all in putting pressure on Russia. What would that look like? We need to give Ukraine the Tomahawk missile to hit the drone and missile factories that are developing to create some level playing field on the military side. We need to pass my bill, our bill, that would allow the president to put up to 500% tariff on any country, China, India, and Brazil, that buys Russian oil dirt cheap without helping Ukraine. Go after Putin's customers. The shadow fleet, they're dispersing the oil. We need to make that harder than it is today. We need to go all in to upgrade Ukraine's military capability, all in to go after the fossil fuel economy of Putin to drive him to the table. And if we don't do that and this war keeps going and going and going and we give away pieces of Ukraine, there goes Taiwan. 80% of all the semiconductors of the world are made in Taiwan. They're watching every damn thing we do in Ukraine. This is a test run for Taiwan.
How many times do you think you've made that case to the president in your rounds of golf?
A lot.
I mean, so why isn't he listening?
Well, he's definitely listening. Lukoil and what's the other oil company from Russia? Put sanctions on it. It mattered more than any single thing we've done. They're closing up Lukoil gas stations all over Europe. The price of discounted oil, Putin's going down, is hurting his ability to fund his war machine. We need to do more, not less, if we can't get a deal. Donbass. How many people know where the Donbass is? That's amazing. The Donbass matters in the sense it sets in motion the rest of this century. The most critical minerals in Ukraine, a lot of them are in the Donbass. Putin's just not an ideological warrior. He'd like to get this stuff. We got $1 trillion deal with Ukraine. Are we going to give that away? Rwanda and Congo. How many have seen the movie Hotel Rwanda? I was in the White House last week where Trump got Rwanda and the Congo to sign a peace deal. I've been there 5 times. Go to see the Highland Guerrillas. Beautiful country. They've been massacring each other for 37 years. And Trump met these 2 guys, Congo, President Kagame, and sat down with them and talked about a new future built around critical minerals. 70% of all the critical minerals in the battery space are on the border of Congo and Rwanda. If we can pull this off, we'll have a footprint in Africa that will compete with China. This is a big friggin' deal. And there's a million things you can say about Trump that makes you squirm, but he's doing a hell of a good job on the peace front. Nobody thought that war was ever solvable, and they signed the peace deal last week around economics. Democracy is important, values are important, but Trump's a business guy. He's making business cases to people who have been killing each other for a long time, and it's actually working. He's used the business power of America to stand down Pakistan and India. Don't underestimate how that part of foreign policy can be effective. He's the first president in my lifetime that's used the business aspects of American power successfully beyond what I thought was even possible. So I'm telling you, we got to go here in a minute. We're going to do as much as we can to deregulate the country, keep your taxes low, develop American-owned energy in 26.
Can you do anything on health care?
If we don't, we're in trouble.
You got to have some kind of bill to vote
So,
for.
right, in December, the Obamacare subsidies expire. Now, Obamacare sucks. I know that's a technical term. The goal of my friends on the Democratic Party is to consolidate health care under the government umbrella. Do you believe that? I believe that because they say that. How many of you provide health care to your employees?
Sure.
Have you ever thought about passing it off to the government? Be honest. The government can't afford to take much more. Private sector health care is smaller in terms of component than it's ever been. Medicare has been expanded, Medicaid's been expanded dramatically. Half the hospital income in this country comes from two sources, Medicare and Medicaid. Over 50% of the revenue of just virtually every hospital in America comes from a single customer, the federal government.
And that's exactly why you can't get any Democrats and many Republicans to vote for any kind of reform.
You should have a job at the Wall Street Journal. So if you wanted to collapse private health care, this is what you would do. If you want to keep private health care available and not be totally dependent on government for health care, which is bankrupting the government more than anything else, you'd come up with alternatives. So here's what's going to happen between now and December. If we don't, we're screwed. We need an alternative to these subsidies. All the money for the subsidies go to insurance companies, 100% of it. What we'd like to do is have higher deductible policies with health savings accounts to pay the deductible. We'd like to break this cycle. I'd like to take some of the $36 billion a year and open up health saving accounts and offer a new plan that doesn't exist today with a higher deductible, which will lower cost and allow those health saving accounts dollars to help people pay their deductible, to break the cycle I'm talking about. You might get some Democratic support for that because the argument that you're enriching healthcare companies at the expense of everybody else is actually resonating. If you extend these subsidies for 3 years without reform, people that make over $300,000 a year will be eligible, and there will be a lot of people paying not $1 in premiums. I think everybody should pay something. That's one way to combat fraud. There are a lot of people on these programs that don't even exist because insurance companies make more money the more people they sign up. If you had a $5 copayment, you'd find a bunch of people ain't paying because they don't exist. So we're trying to break the cycle of fraud.
But to get Democratic votes, you got to extend those subsidies
You have to
currently exist, right?
You have a 2-year deal here.
2-year deal.
What I want to do is put income caps. Does that make sense to you? We're too broke to subsidize people health care that make $300,000 a couple. I'd like to put some kind of minimum payment for premiums to deal with the fraud. Then I'd like to create health saving accounts over time with higher deductible options to lower the overall cost of Obamacare. President Obama said, if we do this, you'll save $2,500 a family. It's gone up over 150%. But healthcare everywhere is going up. And we need to break the cycle. We need to get people with skin in the game. If you give me Ronald Reagan said, nobody ever washes a rental car. Have you heard that? We got to get people involved in their own health care. These health savings accounts need to be set up in a way that you'll think about what you do when you purchase. That you'll get rewarded for making good decisions. How many of you have asked a doctor what they charge when they go to a doctor or hospital? Okay, you're a good man. I never have. I'm just hoping they know what they're doing. We got to get a sense of consumerism in healthcare. We're going to break the bank. That debate in the next 3 weeks is going to be one of the most important things we ever do.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about politics here, campaign politics going into an election year. Is Chuck Schumer going to be the Senate Majority Leader in 2027?
No.
He's not.
And they could win, and he still ain't going to be.
That was my next question.
I like Chuck, but don't get overly attached there.
I mean, but how much trouble?
Yeah, we're actually people listening to what we're saying out there. Chuck Schumer is sort of, the Democratic Party is sort of gone a different way. And I think his ability to stay in that job is pretty limited. Senator McConnell, this just happens when you're a leader over time, your party changes. We could lose the Senate, but we'd have to really work at it. And don't count us out. I think we'll keep the Senate. We have 53. You got North Carolina and you got Maine, where you have 2 incumbent Republicans in competitive seats. Never bet against Susan Collins from Maine. She won Maine by 9, Trump lost by 9, she made up 18 points. She is a great United States Senator. We need to help Susan financially. North Carolina is more red than it is blue. I live in South Carolina, I know. Whatley's a good candidate, it's gonna be a very close race. For them to get the Senate back, they'd have to pick those 2 and 2 more. We just got a really good map. Georgia, we can win that seat if we get the right candidate. Sununu, New Hampshire is the best possible candidate we could hope for to take that seat back. You got Mike Rogers in Michigan. This is a good map for us. I think we're more likely to have 55 than 51, but in this business, you can't take anything for granted. The House, if the election were today, we'd probably lose the House, but it's not today. If the one big beautiful bill kicks in, we can do another reconciliation bill to kind of jumpstart the economy, deregulate the economy, keep taxes low, have cheaper, affordable energy, deal with the inflation in farming, then we can do okay. This midterm redistricting exercise is something no one's ever done before. Right now, we're on track probably to pick up 5, maybe 6 through redistricting. Depends what happens in Indiana. So if the economy takes off, inflation levels out, gas prices stay low, affordable housing, we need to build more houses, that's when you got a problem. I could see us holding the House and the Senate. A smart bet would be we'd lose the House and keep the Senate. But nobody knows. You know what I like most about America? Nobody really knows. Because it depends on people like you. My fate is determined by a bunch of people I'll never meet. If you don't like your government in America, you can change it. Every 2 years, every 4 years. And I travel the world a lot. There's a lot of people will never be able to say what I just said. I can change my government if I don't like it. We got a lot of problems here at home, but let's never lose that. As long as people feel like they can change their government, the best days of America are ahead.
We've got 1:15 left. Who's your favorite Democratic senator?
I like them equally.
I guess you're a politician.
I'm watching that red-eyed guy back there.
All right, quickly. You've been in the Senate for 24 years.
Yeah.
I'm
just getting started.
What's the biggest change? But what's the biggest?
Money. Finding compromise is harder than it's ever been. There are 1 million people make money telling you what you can't do. You got all these special interest groups. The amount of money in my race, the most money I've ever spent in the history of the United States Senate on a race was in my state, which is a pretty red state. You remember Kavanaugh? I stood up for Brett because I voted for Sumner and Kagan. They were going to ruin this guy's life and screw you and the horse you rode in on. And That made a lot of people happy, a lot of people mad. Then I supported Trump, and every liberal in America hated my guts and gave my opponent $132 million, and he never left his basement through online giving. I raised 112. The goal was to raise 14. American politics, when it comes to money, is just crazy. Hate motivates more than love. So what's hard to do now is to reach across the aisle and not come back with a stump. The goal is to reward problem solving, right? That's where people like you are going to have to step up to make sure that there's enough people up here that will give and take like you do at home. And what I worry about over the arc of time is all the energy around giving and all the energy around political contest is about what you won't do, not what you will do. And we got to kind of stop this before it gets out of hand. I think we're likely, we're in a pretty good spot. In the Senate, as I told you, don't know about the House. But 26 is a year we can do things even though we're in an election cycle. It's a year where we can move the ball forward for the country. My Democratic colleagues asked me who I like. I said equally. There are a lot of them I actually do get along with. There are a lot of them that will give and take. And my goal in 26 is try to find a few win-wins. Let's end on this. If you think Putin winning in Ukraine doesn't affect you, you're missing a lot. In the 1930s, people gave evil ideas a pass, and yesterday was December the 7th. If you don't confront this stuff, you'll wake up and have a bad morning. I care about the price of gas, the price of groceries, about the price of housing, the ability to send your kid to school. I care about all of that. But I also care about our national security. If Putin gets away with taking parts of Ukraine, there goes Taiwan. And the economic imbalance that will have is enormous. So never lose sight of the fact that it can't always be about the next election. It can't always be about just dollars and cents. How many of you believe if Iran had a nuclear weapon, they would use it? The goal is to make sure they never do. They were very close. Israel can't afford to be wrong about that. Israel's not perfect, but they're our friend and they're our ally. So I promise you this, Paul. We'll talk about economic reforms, regulatory reform, permitting reform, increased energy, lower taxes, all that stuff. But if you don't deal with this other stuff, then you can wake up one day and the world is on fire. The world is on fire right now. Syria. Hamas is still around. I want to help President Trump deal with Venezuela. We have narco-terrorist states in our backyard that are killing more Americans than Al-Qaeda and ISIS ever would hope to kill by poisoning our country. Maduro's a bad guy, hooked up with Hezbollah. He sits atop drug cartels. He's not legitimate. People ask me what to do, blow the damn boats up before they get here. So my advice to everybody in this room is pick politicians that you don't always agree with, but you believe they will do hard things.
All right. Thank you very much, Senator.
Very much.
You've been very generous with your time, and please recognize this.
Thank you very much. God bless.
Great. Thanks.